Hello, welcome to my channel, True Crime with KT. If you like the video today, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you are a returning subscriber, I'm very appreciative of you. I haven't uploaded a video recently because I've had my head bogged down trying to cover this topic that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about murdered and missing Native American women and children. I realized that we haven't heard a lot about this topic on the news or in social media. You don't see people talking about it on YouTube. None of the true crime people hardly ever cover anything regarding Native American women and children. And so I thought I would tackle this, and I ended up finding that recently as last week and in the past year or two, there have been some efforts to try to do something about the large number of cases that are still unsolved. I got a little overwhelmed with all of the information that I found that's recent and new. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about and what I needed to edit. And I wanted to talk about specific cases, but I may mention one today and then cover others in the future. But there are so many to cover. And you will see in some of the photos that I have, all of the many photos of missing Native American women. I'm going to talk a little bit about the murdered and missing Indigenous women movement and the legislation behind that, and also an order signed by Trump on November 2019 called Operation Lady Justice Task Force. And there are other bits of legislation I might mention, but like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and I think it's important that we talk about it in the true crime community. I found a lot of statistics about this topic, and some of it kind of contradicted each other, but I believe that's because of problems with reporting of these cases, and I will talk about that in a bit. But in 2016, there was a study by the National Institute of Justice that found that more than 80% of American women and Alaska Natives have experienced violence in their lifetimes. Let me repeat that, 80%. One half of the murders of Native American women in tribal areas are not reported to the FBI. I found one study that stated that there were more than 1,500 cases of missing or murdered women according to the National Crime Information Center, and that's Native American women. But then I read another study that gave the number over 5,000. So I'm thinking that they were including women and children, both boys and girls, in that high number. But I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and reread the sources and find out what their sources were to get that clarification. But a lot of Native American women and children might be being kidnapped by human traffickers, and there's a lack of accurate information. Some of the problems that may affect whether or not these cases are reported to law enforcement may include, first of all, it isn't illegal to go missing, so maybe that data is not entered, it's not reported, or it's not taken seriously. Lack of law enforcement resources and culturally appropriate support services. The historic distrust of local law enforcement. Jurisdictional issues, whether the crime or missing person was living on Native American land or tribal lands or not. It's just a matter of who is going to handle the case, and maybe it gets lost in the middle. Also, federal justice presence has been intermittent and inconsistent. Bureau of Indian Affairs Office of Justice Services will be opening 7 Operation Lady Justice task force cold case offices across the country and will concentrate on number of missing and murdered Indigenous women. Some of the offices will be in Bloomington, Minnesota, Anchorage, Alaska, Rapid City, South Dakota, Billings, Montana, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Sacaton, Arizona, and I believe in Phoenix, Arizona as well. There should be a 7th office that's scheduled to open in Nashville that may have already been opened, actually. But to give a little bit more information about Operation Lady Justice Task Force, which is a lot of words, it was created by an executive order from President Trump back in November 2019, and it is a multi-agency effort led by Interior Secretary David Bernhardt and U.S. Attorney General William Barr. Charles Addington, who is the Deputy Director for Bureau of Indian Affairs Office of Justice Services, was quoted as saying, "It's a multidisciplinary team which is going to include folks from all over different law enforcement agencies, our partners at the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, as well as their state and local partners," which basically means that some of these agencies who have been sort of getting in each other's way to solve these cases are going to unite together with their data and information to work on the cold cases. The duties for the cold case officers will be to gather intelligence on missing and murdered cases, prioritizing those cases for assignment to investigative teams, and develop plans to help guide investigators. That will include identifying outside resources, including social services, which could provide meaningful input and coordinating that with investigators. So it's involving people from different agencies, and I think when you do that, when you get together and you talk and you share your information, more can be found out. And more can be done to solve the cases. Just a couple of more statistics I'd like to mention. Native American women and girls also face some of the highest levels of murder, domestic abuse, and sexual violence in America. More than half of Native American women face sexual or intimate partner violence during their lifetime than that in other areas. Native women are murdered at rates more than 10 times the national average, according to the Justice Department. I'm going to go ahead and end this video here because that was just a lot of information to share at once. I'm going to come back soon and talk about the murdered and missing Indigenous women movement and also talk about some individual cases. Thank you for watching the video, and again, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, share, and I appreciate you.